Welcome to the Kingdom Culture Podcast that was created on purpose with a purpose to empower, uplift, and guide others to the center of God's perfect will. Welcome back to the Kingdom Culture Podcast. I'm so happy you're here for episode 3. Today we're going to talk about anger issues. And I know that growing up, I had a lot of them. I had a lot of emotions that I didn't know how to express correctly. And so that turned out to be anger and outbursts and yelling and not communicating. Growing up, my communication skills were pretty much just angry outbursts and yelling so much that I didn't even get my point across. I just made people feel bad and hurt them with my actions, right? So anger issues, what are they? So it's the difficulty in managing and expressing anger in a healthy and appropriate way. It could be through verbal hostility, through aggressive outbursts, through you breaking something, through you insulting other people, to you kicking stuff, to you screaming into a pillow, to you crying because you're so angry, to you laughing because you're so angry and not being able to realize what are the emotions that you're feeling and what's going on when you have a trigger. And for me, one of the things that I learned about myself is that my anger issues actually started when I was little. They actually started when I was with my dad in Mexico. So my grandmother and my brother, as you guys know, after I talked about, I grew up with them. My grandmother took care of my brother and I told me we were about 9 or 10. And sometimes they would travel to the U.S. To visit my aunt and my other cousins. So my brother got to go because he actually was born in the U.S., so he got to travel back and forth with her. I, however, could not. And because of that, I had to stay with my dad for whatever time they were gone. And I remember this one time I was staying with them, and sadly, my dad had a lot of issues. He was troubled as well. I was in a room and he started beating his wife at the time. And I just remember him going like this to her and punched her. Not funny. Sorry, that's just a reaction. And she fell on the bed. And I remember the next thing is that my dad got even more mad and told me to leave. He said, ¿Qué haces ahí? Salte para afuera ahora. And for those of you that don't speak Spanish, that means, what are you doing there? Get out now. So 7-year-old little me ran back outside, and I stayed outside until somebody came out and got me. But truth is that hours and hours and hours passed by and nobody came to get me. I remember I took a whole walk down the block. I found a dog and I started playing with the dogs, which is not very safe to do in Mexico, but I did it anyway because I was bored. And then as it started to get dark, I started to make my way back home. And I remember I sat down, and my dad had this post thing because his roof was a little bit over. So I put my back against that pole and waited and waited and waited. Turns out my dad forgot about me. He forgot that I was outside. And I remember I was really mad about that, because how are you going to forget your daughter, right? I mean, I get it. Maybe he was drugged while he was doing everything else. But he forgot about me. And I know that he forgot about me because when he saw me outside in the dark, his face fell to the floor. And he said, Mija, ¿qué haces acá afuera? Está frío, está oscuro. ¿Qué haces aquí? Métete para adentro, báñate y vete a dormir. As he was leaving to go drinking with his friends. That means, what are you doing outside? It's dark. It's cold. Go inside, take a bath, and get warm. That's what he said to me. And I remember being so mad. Again, I was only 6 or 7, but I was so angry at the fact that he forgot about me. How do you forget about a whole person, right? And so when I was remembering all these things, we never talked about that day ever. We never brought it back up. His wife never talked about it. She, covered up her bruises. And we acted like everything was fine, had dinner as a big, fat, happy family the next day. But we never, ever talked about it. And the one thing that I learned is that if you don't talk about something, you kind of just shove it down and let it be. So yeah, growing up, I had a lot of those types of incidents. I remember I was pissed at my grandmother because I had to stay there with my father. I was mad at her for leaving me there. I was mad at her for even allowing him to take care of me because he forgot about me for hours. I'm not talking 2 or 3 guys. I'm talking about hours outside. And I was pissed at my brother too because I was playing the victim card, and I was like, well, how come he gets to go everywhere? How come he gets the better end of the stick? How come he gets to travel? Why do I have to stay here with this family that's, mean? And a lot of frustration was going on around in my head. Imagine the one male persona in my life that I had to feel safe with, that I had to feel confident with, that I had to feel loved by, was not that, any of that. And I had to grow up realizing that my father was not the greatest man alive. And I had to shove all of that down because I couldn't talk about it. I couldn't say, Dad, why are you like this? Why are you doing drugs? Why are you drinking so much? We did not talk about these things, not even with my grandmother. So, seeing my dad like that, having to make up excuses for the way that he was because I was a daddy's girl and I wanted to love him unconditionally, was hard. So that all transferred to anger, which then bled into my teenage years, which then bled into my adulthood, right? And I remember in high school, I used to be the fun, super loud, super fun friend. I'd make everybody laugh. Everything was great. But if you made a comment that I didn't agree with, if you got in my face, if you made fun of me, if you made fun of one of my friends, I was the tough friend that got in people's faces. I yelled back. I caused a lot of little arguments for no reason. I remember some of my friends were like, "Why are you so angry all the time?" And I couldn't give them an answer, and I'd be like, "Whatever, I don't care. It's just how I am." So I had a lot of outbursts growing up with different situations that probably were not that serious, but because I didn't know how to channel my emotions and how to properly express them, I blew up, right? So I would blow up again a lot. And I also had a boyfriend in high school. We talked about him as well. And he had his anger issues of his own. So imagine 2 teenage kids just going at it at each other's throats, screaming, yelling. No points are being, listened to. There's nothing going across, back and forth. There's no resolution. It's just fighting one against the other. So yeah, a lot of anger, a lot of it. And I even remember one time I ran away from my house. So my mom made me mad because of something. I don't even remember what, but I was so mad that I packed up a bag and I told one of my guy friends to pick me up, and I was gone. I was gone for a whole day, almost a whole night too. And my mom was calling my phone, and I was like, whatever, I don't care. And I was with some friends, and I literally left for a long time. My mom was worried sick about me, and she was mad that, I would do that. And so, yeah, growing up, I blame a lot of people for everything else that went around in my life. I blamed the way that I grew up, the way that my father was, the way that I didn't truly have a relationship with my mom. And that bled into my relationship. So I know that I hurt a lot of people's feelings. I had very crude, like, angry humor. I'd make fun of people because that was the easiest thing to do. But yeah, a lot of anger stored up. And it took so much, it took so much from me. It took good friendships. It took a good relationship. It took some situations in my life, like where I would get into fights that I didn't need to be a part of. It's very draining to be angry all the time. Very, very draining. Until I became self-aware that this was happening in my life and I wanted to make a change. So with that, I want to give you guys some tips on how I've been able to, one, overcome some of my anger issues and how to better handle my emotions to be able to not hurt people anymore or have angry outbursts or anything like that, because now I'm married. And so the way that we handle conflict is very important to me. So we've been able to actually look for a resolution and not fight against each other. And again, my son, right? My son's always watching, so I wouldn't want him to grow up and thinking that his mom is angry all the time. His mom's always yelling. Why is this normal? Because that will bleed into him as well. And I don't want him to react to certain things like that either. So I had to make a change. I had to realize, like, oh, you know what? Nope, I'm not doing this anymore. This is not who I am. And so I started to do these different things and implementing these different steps to be able to help. So the tips that I can give you that really set the motion for me to be able to start dealing with all of these anger issues was the fact that I recognized my triggers. So recognizing my triggers allowed me to be self-aware of when I had to, like, either walk away from a situation or hold back what I had to say. And so one of my big triggers, I think, is when people lie to me. I don't like that at all. I don't understand why people do that. So that's a big trigger for me. So I try to stay away from people that, just have that tendency of lying, or try to make up their life to be better. I don't know. Those types of people. My dad. So I have a lot of things with my father still and that I'm still working through. So anything to have to do with my dad, he passed away unexpectedly, and I never got to deal with a lot of the things that we went through together, but that's another one. And I recognize that there's area of improvement. There's an area of improvement there. My son, I get really angry really fast when somebody tries to hurt him or somebody makes a comment about my parenting. So I kind of just avoid those conversations as a whole. And then when people bully people, like, I don't understand that at all. That really, like, gets me going, because why are you going to bully somebody you don't really know? Why are you going to make somebody feel less because it makes you feel better? I never understood that concept, so that's another thing. So recognizing my biggest 5 triggers has allowed me to, one, know what not to talk about and what type of people to ignore. 2, when I have to take a walk or step back and realize, like, oh no, this is going to make me upset, let me not go into this. And it's made me self-aware to the point where I don't react to things. Not everything deserves a reaction, right? So I don't react to things either. And that's helped me with that. The second thing that I implemented was deep breathing. And I know that might sound like, ooh, deep breathing, that's so dumb. But it actually works. So when I'm feeling very overwhelmed or stressed or angry, I actually take a moment and I do 3 deep breaths. Close my eyes. So and I just try to become present. I try to feel my breath coming out. I try to just relax myself so that I don't say something I'm going to regret or react the wrong way, right? So that really helps me. And it allows me to stay present as well. this is my favorite one so far, and then that's exercise. So exercising actually has helped me a lot, because when I get mad and pissed and like I'm super mad that I know that I'm gonna say something, do something, I go into my gym and I just lift weights like crazy, and then that helps me. And it's like a good angry, if you want to say, because I get to new personal records of weights and reps and everything else. So when I'm super super angry and I just don't know what else to do, I just get in the gym and work it out, because the getting your body moving will get you into a new state. So getting your body moving and everything else gets you into a state of being focused on that, and it takes you out of your slumps or angriness or whatever else. So exercise really has helped me with my anger issues, and that's my favorite one so far. Another thing is that I've actually developed my communication skills better. So when I'm feeling angry, especially with my husband, I have learned to actually talk out what I'm feeling. So it might sound a little corny or whatever, but when he makes me upset, I actually stop what we're doing, and at that exact moment, I tell him, "Hey, you know what? What you said made me upset. It made me angry. Let's talk about it." Right in that moment. I don't let hours pass by. I don't let that moment pass by, because after that, like, you're actually holding on to that anger, and it actually stresses your body even more. So I've learned to use my communication skills to be very precise of when I say something and how I say it. So if he does something or I do something or my son does something and that really upsets me, instead of bursting out in anger and screaming, I take the time to say, "Oh, hey, you know what? That's a trigger for me. I feel it. Let's talk about it." And we bring it together, and we're able to work together through that, which has been a great thing for me, because now I'm not holding on to these feelings of like, "Oh, you pissed me off. I'm not going to talk to you." Because I used to do that. I used to be mad and just be gone. I'd leave. I'd be out the door into something else, trying to distract myself and not dealing with the anger. So communication skills is a very good thing to develop, so that you're able to actually talk things out and work towards resolutions, because that's what a marriage or a friendship or a relationship, whatever, you're not supposed to be fighting each other. You're supposed to be finding resolutions against the problem together. So that was really cool that we've been able to do that. And the last one, as I'm always going to bring this back to my faith, because my faith has really, truly turned everything that I do into a new perspective, the way that I am, the way that I react to things. It all also comes out to my faith. So while I was, dealing with all these things growing up, it was hard for me to know how to handle it, or what it meant to be okay or a good person, or not have anger issues, because I never had a model to look up to, or I never understood, like, oh, I'm just supposed to be angry all the time. That's normal. Come to find out, no. So as I walked in my faith, I started to really grasp to the fruits of the Spirit. And if you guys don't know those, there are things that the Spirit within you, the Holy Spirit, has for you to live a better life, is how I see it, right? So gentleness, kindness, self-control, love, and I'm spacing on the last two, but what it means to me, right? I'm not theology expert. Are the different characteristics that you're supposed to have so that you live a better life and live a better life with others. And the one that really caught my attention was self-control. So in the book of Proverbs, it talks about self-control in a very, very practical way. And it says, I wrote it down here, it says, "Receive instruction in wise dealing and the discipline of wise thoughtfulness, righteousness, justice, and integrity." So what that tells me is that everything that I go through, everything that I react to, everything that I say, everything, when I deal with another person, has to be in the right mindset, the right way, to not let my emotions get the best of me and just blur out things, right? And practicing self-control requires a high level of self-awareness and knowing that I need to be different, right? I cannot say that I have found Christ and act all crazy or whatever else. But it is still a struggle. I know a bunch of my friends, we talked about this. A friend of mine, we discussed it, and she said that she still deals with those types of things, and sometimes you're not going to get it right. But the point is that you're trying to be better. You're trying to realize and become self-aware of the areas that you need to improve on, so that you can actually, live a better life and treat others around you better, and just have that peace, calmness, and, self-control that we're called to be as Christians, right? And if you're not of the Lord or believe in God, I totally respect that. Again, I'm talking about me. This is me, my situation, how I have overcome anger issues. But with you, it could be the same thing, self-control, learn to not speak out of turn, or learn to not hurt yourself by punching something, or learn not to hurt other people's feelings because you're feeling hurt. And journaling has really helped me. I think journaling can go in all areas of your life, and journaling my emotions as well, my anger, like writing it out and then like burning it, has been a cool thing that I have been able to do as well. But to me, I try not to get defensive anymore. I try not to take things too personal. I try not to make it about me. I try to see the different perspective of the other person, why they acted the way that they acted, and so that I don't carry anger in my heart, because, me walking in faith now means that I am a different person. I'm not going to have this tough girl look on my face and act out of anger anymore, because now I have the Holy Spirit dwelling within me. So that's really changed everything. The Lord calls us to be a humble people so that we can help others with their struggles, right? So for me, that means that I need to know when not to react. I need to know what kind of reaction and words I need to use, and how I need to show up. Even my body language, how am I going to show up? Because there has been times, and I can pinpoint this to actually a recent one, where I was overstimulated and I was angry because we were at this church event, and my son was just going all over the place, like running, and I was just tired. I was tired from work, and I was tired from chasing him, and there was 3 people that I met that day that had never met me, and their first impression of me was me being angry, me being frustrated. I remember that my husband's friend said, "Uy, qué cara," and that in Spanish is like, "Oh, what an attitude you have right now." And then I actually also dismissed another person that a friend of mine had introduced to me. So he was like, "Hey, what's up?" Whatever. And then he was with another person, and I was like, "Hey, man, what's up?" and walked away. So you can see that, those types of reactions can really, truly drive people away from you. And to me, first impressions mean everything. So I truly do hope and pray that I get to talk to them and probably meet them again sometime to explain, But that's why I'm very self-aware. That's why I took the time to heal and to actually know where my anger is rooting from and what causes it. Because I don't want my son to grow up like that. I don't want my son to say, "Hey, you know what? Mommy is angry all the time. I can yell at you. Mommy is always yelling, so that's how I'm going to talk to my friends. Mommy's always mad at the world, so I'm going to be mad at it too." So here we are, healing, walking forward, and being better. And again, I don't get it 100% of the time, but I do know that I'm more self-aware, and I know when to not react and how to actually take my feelings and, 1, express them, 2, not act out on them, right? So anyway, that's all I have for you this week. I hope that, this is a blessing to somebody out there, and you're able to really truly dive into where your anger issues are rooting from, and you're able to slowly work towards having that peace of mind and self-control that you need to be able to live a better, healthier, stress-free life, right? But with that, I'm going to tell you guys this every single time, is that know that I love you guys, but the Lord loves you more. Always, always, always. God bless, guys. See you guys next week.